I like to do all the talking myself. It's one of my greatest pleasures. I often have long conversations all by myself, and sometimes I am so clever I don't understand a single word of what I've been saying.
Now, we had Patrick Walsh earlier on. We still have Patrick Walsh. He's responsible for this book here, Patrick Walsh, Oscar Wilde, the world's favourite 100 quotes.
Yeah, it was the Guinness Living Dublin Awards, and very kindly I won this award through the project, the Oscar Wilde Centenary Project.
I have it here. Highly commended entry. Highly commended. Hey, gibbers. 2000 Guinness Living Dublin Awards. That's a lovely thing to have.
I know, it was very nice.
You say you were surprised. Do you want to explain, as a fellow says, you're surprised at this?
Yeah, I was genuinely shocked because I'd been chatting to some people there last night, and, you know, I knew I was shortlisted all right, but I certainly didn't expect to get that far. But it was very kind of the judges. Obviously, they think, Oscar, here he is 100 years later, and he's still winning awards. Thanks, Oscar, for that.
Absolutely, but it's in recognition of your work in promoting him and promoting his work over the years.
Even like when he died in Paris, there was a lock of his sister's hair left in an envelope and his pawn ticket, and he had left a poem on her grave. She died when she was 8 or 9. I'll give you a few verses.
Yes, do.
Tread lightly, she is near, under the snow. Speak gently, she can hear the daisies grow. All her bright golden hair tarnished with rust, she that was young and fair, fallen to dust. George Bernard Shaw was very influenced, and he said it afterwards that he was very influenced by Oscar Wilde.
I'm relaunching the book, an updated version. There's a new DVD that came out that was filmed by Bygone Memories. Noel Kearns did that. And that's over 2 hours long. As I mentioned in the green room, we interviewed Rosanna Davis and Miss World, so Oscar would love that. Being a guy who loved beauty, I wasn't complaining myself either, mind you. And then that was at the statue in September. And of course...
And the statue is in...
Merrion Square.
Oh, that's right, beside the house, the Oscar Wilde house that's there.
That's right. It's now the American College. And I was guest speaker for Culture Night there on the 21st of September.
And you do Culture Night every year?
Yeah, in his home. They open it for one day to
And
the
it's
public.
normally around the 21st of September, isn't it?
Yeah,
around that.
And that's in his family home. His mother was Lady Jane Francesca, but she was known as Speranza, and it was a name she picked. It's an Italian name. It means hope, and hope was for the Irish nation at the time. And then his dad was knighted. He was Queen Victoria's surgeon, and he was knighted then by Queen Victoria, Sir William Wilde, and he founded the Eye and Ear Hospital for the poor people of Dublin. So they're very kind people. Yeah, I think that's where Oscar got his kindness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Meet Oscar Wilde. Or is it Batman?
Patrick.
In 1885, upon arriving in New York, I was asked, had I anything to declare? And I replied, I have nothing to declare except my genius.
I just love the fact that he got up there and he'd done that, and he's so passionate about Oscar Wilde, and I thought he'd done it really, really well.
Of course, his father, Sir William, he wrote many books which are still used today practiced in medicine, of course, a brilliant eye and ear surgeon, and originally from Mayo, and he came back to retire here then, of course, I think around, I'm not sure of the year, 1880 sometime, I think, and he spent the last years of his life down here. This is where the show is being filmed, a date with Oscar Wilde, and as you can see over here, the angle, it's going to be filmed over here in the Quiet Man Museum, which is a replica from the movie. So this is the beautiful Loch Corrib, where Oscar Wilde fished as a young teenager with his father, Sir William Wilde. Loch Corrib is the largest lake in Ireland. They say there's 365 islands on it, which means there's an island for every day. He once said, the gods had given me almost everything. I had genius, a distinguished name, high social position, brilliancy, intellectual daring. I made art a philosophy, and philosophy an art. There was nothing I said or did that did not make people wonder. Whatever I touched, I made beautiful. Former Miss World, Rosanna Davis and Oscar Wilde, who loved beauty What do you think of the statue of Oscar Wilde?
I think it is, well, it's very appropriate to have a statue of Oscar Wilde here in Dublin. It obviously attracts a huge amount of visitors and tourists, and it's a great way to honour, you know, a huge literary figure in Irish history.
Yeah, and this is the house where he lived. I think, Rosanna, that he's actually looking at the arts, and he's looking away from his beautiful wife, which is Constance there.
Oh yeah.
And he's looking at the arts, and of course that's his home where he lived from 1855 to 1878. Tell me, you mentioned about the importance of being earnest.
Yes, well, many years ago when I was in school, I was going to say schoolgirl, I did study the play, so it's a little rusty in my mind now, but it was obviously a great play to study. It's incredibly detailed and extremely well written. It's something that I would love to look at again.
Great. Well, look, thanks very much for coming along, and I know Oscar would be so proud. I was trying to get a few people to interview tourists. It's not often you get this word to come along. So thanks
Thank you very much.
Okay,
See you again. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Here with Niall, one of Dragon's Den, Ireland's Dragon's Den. And Niall tells me he played Jack in The Importance of Being Earnest.
That's right, we just bumped into each other on the street. I said I'd come across and say a few words. I did, by total coincidence in meeting me.
Right.
I happened to play Jack Worthing in The Importance of Being Earnest in a dramatic society that I was in after school, and it was hugely ambitious part and role to take on, because at the time I even had my own business, so we were trying to do this at night and then have this full 2 weeks of the play every night. So it was a great memory. But Oscar Wilde was fantastic. I wonder, it's amazing just to see where he's born, just across the road and where he lived. Yeah, I often wonder, what would Oscar Wilde think of today's society, where he'd be so freely accepted and absolutely embraced. I think that might bother him. I think that he might have sort of half nearly enjoyed being different, you know, whereas now you wonder. But it's a wonderful sculpture.
Yeah, and it was unveiled in 1997 by Marilyn Holland, Oscar's grandson.
Okay.
They changed the name to Holland because of the scandal. And then Danny Osborne was the sculptor, like even the detail the shoelace and the ring, of course, and the smoking jacket. I wrote a book about Oscar Wilde, the world's favourite 100 quotes, and I have a picture of that, and the quote I've used is, "I'm hard at work being idle."
You know. And even the frogging is the lacing on the jacket. The detail is superb. And even only a couple of weeks ago, this new nightclub opened in Dublin called Wilde.
So I believe.
You know, that's all. And I just got an invite for it, and you could see the logo of it was very much that Oscar Wilde influence. And in London, there's a bar, a club called the Green Carnation.
Oh,
and that's a real take on the carnation, which you often more, and the Irishness of it, you know, in London. So,
well, if you're interested, on the 21st of September from 5:30 on, there's a culture evening. They're having it each year, and it's the 21st September to Friday in Oscar Wilde's house.
Great.
If you want to come along.
Yeah, I'd love to go.
I have to do a 15-minute piece about him. The Gaiety, you're doing an hour-and-a-half piece. There's a piece on the Selfish Giant, which I think this park inspired him to write that story, where the children couldn't play here. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Oscar Wilde. I'm sure you can see this interview later on YouTube. It'll be Oscar Wilde Genius.
Very good.
But it's a pleasure that you came along.
Delighted to.
And the best of luck.
Absolutely.
Keep promoting Oscar, one of our great literary figures.
Absolutely.
Thanks
superb. Well done for what you're doing.
I also think that Oscar was inspired to write his beautiful children's story in the park here, The Selfish Giant, where the giant wouldn't allow the children to play.
Oscar Wilde saved all the children from going to jail. My daddy reads me the story The Happy Prince at Bedtime by Oscar Wilde, and I wish Oscar Wilde was alive again.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much.